Well, good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone, all of you wonderful people, and welcome to Under Construction. I am your host, Pastor Steve, and I am so delighted that you have joined me. Before we get started, let me give props to ALH Broadcasting. You know, they always say, let's pay the bills. Okay, so let's pay the bills. No, and say thank you to ALH Broadcasting for hosting our show for us tonight. Hope you guys have had a great Monday. I've had an awesome Monday and I am so looking forward to sharing the show with you on tonight. Man, we've got an incredible guest with us tonight. And let me just say right off the rip, we probably will not get through all of it tonight. It is so much to unpack in this conversation. So we're already talking about there's going to be a part two. So stay tuned for next month. Hopefully, if I can get our guests back on for part two, because it is just incredible. So you saw the intro. Listen, we're about building leaders. We're about building people. Listen, we are all under construction in one way or the other. You know, God is building all of us up, man. Hello, my niece Tasha. Welcome to the show. Love this great woman of God. I still got to get her on my show, guys. Y'all gonna love her. She's a powerhouse and she's very excitable, if that's a word that I can use. And so there's my son, my namesake, y'all. You know, I love this guy. He's an awesome young man. Welcome to the show, everybody. So yeah, it's that time, and again, we're excited. I'm fresh, guys. I just came off a vacation. How about that? Yeah, some downtime to unplug and enjoy. I had the opportunity to hang out with some family and some friends, and of course with my queen, my wife, and have some downtime. There she is, you all, the love of my life. And so yeah, I'm refreshed, but I am really, really excited about tonight. So here at Under Construction, we talk about men. You know, a lot of it is around centered around our men, not entirely, but we do want to make sure that we're strengthening our men and building our men because it's so important, as you will hear tonight, that our men are built up, that they're fortified, that they become men of valor. Hey, that's what it is. They are men of valor, and so we're going to be talking about that tonight and how do we catch them at a younger age. So I don't want to give my show away. I'm going to bring in my guest in just a moment. But really, this guy, to me, he needs no introduction because I know him. I love him. He's a family member. He's a nephew. He's all of that and a bag of chips. So without further ado, I want to bring my guest in on tonight. And so I can introduce you guys formally to my guest. So there he comes. Look at there, none other than Dr. Dwayne West. Yeah, you heard it right, Dr. Dwayne West. This man has so many hats and he has so many titles and so many degrees, man. It's a thermometer, with all the degrees and the accolades that this guy has accumulated. But I love this guy. He is my nephew. My wife is spoiled, so she's like, "That's my nephew." Yeah, it's on my wife's side, but listen, I've known this cat for, I don't know, Dwayne, man, almost 20, 25 years or so, I guess. I don't know, something like that. And I've just watched God just accelerate this guy. I mean, so he's an educator. He's a worshiper. He's a preacher. He's a family man. He is all of that. He's a leadership guru. He's a consultant. I mean, I'm reading his bio and I'm like, oh my goodness. So I'm going to let him share a little bit about himself. But I do know he's been in education for the last 27 years. He's currently the principal at Belnora Elementary School. And check this out. I was just in Missouri a week before last, and I had the opportunity to tour his school. He took me through his school. Man, he is doing such an amazing job there. So check this out. He's currently the principal of Belnora Elementary School. He did his undergrad and bachelor's at Harris Stowe University, right there in St. Louis. Graduate of Missouri Baptist University, master's in education administration, currently pursuing a doctorate at Maryville University in education. Man, the awards and accolades just go on and on and on. Welcome to the show, you guys. Dr. Dwayne West. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I am so excited to be with you all this evening. Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely, man. And so we're going to get right into it because, as I stated, time is going to be go upon us so quickly because it always does. But when I spoke with you, Dwayne, the other week, I was sharing with you as I was walking through the school with you, man. It just hit my spirit because I hear what you're doing. I see what you're doing. And I understand the importance of what you are doing, especially in our community. And so it is vital that we catch our young men, of course, our young women as well too.
Yes,
It's just vitally important that we catch our young men at such an early age so that
absolutely.
we can mold them and shape them into the marksmanship that God has created for them to be. But it is left up to us for the shaping and the molding. And I'm really getting tired of turning on the news, Dwayne, and
Absolutely.
these men shooting and being shot and going to jail, and the age gets younger and younger and younger. It just crushes my heart. I have grandchildren. I have teenage grandboys. I mean, my youngest grandson is Carter. I believe is 8 or 9, and then I have a 14-year-old and 18. So I know what's needed out there to make sure that we're catching our young men and we're pointing them in direction. The Bible depicts us as our children as arrows in a bow, man. We point them in the direction that we want them to go. And listen, you are a father, man. You have
Absolutely.
beautiful girls. I love them dearly. So I'm gonna chill for a moment, let you kind of talk about your family for a moment, talk about your girls, your beautiful wife, Dana. I love Dana, and she's doing her thing in real estate, guys. So let me put a plug in real quick. If you're in the St. Louis area and you need a realtor, you need to call Mrs. Dana West for sure. So make sure Dana know I put that plug in there, okay?
I will definitely.
Yeah, so just kind of tell us a little bit about you, Dwayne, and the school system and what I know you're getting ready to start school. And so kind of tell me what's going on with that.
Absolutely. So first, let me start by saying how excited I am for this opportunity to be with you all this evening. Thank you so much for LAA. I think it's ALH.
Yes, correct.
Yes, providing a platform, because this is actually where it starts at.
Right.
With opportunities like this to be
Sure.
able to just really share.
Yeah.
And thank you, Pastor Steve Sims, Uncle
Right.
Steve Sims,
Right.
for this
Absolutely.
opportunity as well. So I am, like he said, Dwayne West, a St. Louis native,
Yeah.
51 years old. 51
Oh,
years old. God, I like to say it like this: 51 years that God has kept me.
all right, now don't start preaching on me.
Absolutely. And so, like Pastor Steve Sims said, I am a father. I am a father of 5. 2 of my children are not by Dana, but they are just as supportive of our family as the 3 daughters that I do have
Absolutely.
with my wife, Dana West, of
Mhm.
26 years.
Go ahead
26
on.
years, July 25th, we just celebrated our 26th year of being married, and out of
Right.
that union, 3 beautiful daughters, Diana, Dinah, and Drew, 25, 24, and 22 years. So they keep us pretty busy. Even
Of
now
course.
in their adult age, they
Sure.
keep us pretty busy. So, and like Pastor Steve Sims said, I've been in education for now 27 years.
Wow.
27 years. I started back in the 90s, actually. And I have always been in the public educational system, and particularly in the areas of your urban, what would be considered here in St. Louis, Missouri, your urban areas where
Right.
we really need great impact when it comes to students seeing educators like myself. And we know in a world where you have very minimal
Right.
male educators, it's really imperative that when you get male educators into education, that you really consume them and find opportunities to be able to keep them in education. So for 27 years, that's been my passion. I understand, and it's really all about the why, understanding that why. And that's one thing in particular that I definitely have let drive me throughout the years of being in education, my why. And so, like Pastor Sim said, throughout that 27-year tenure, I've been a classroom teacher of grades 1st through 6th grade in 3 of our districts here in Missouri. I've also been an instructional coach. assistant principal, and now a principal. And I'm currently embarking upon superintendency here soon, which is
Wow.
probably where I will retire at or whatnot. But
Right.
being in
Powerful.
the education system has been so rewarding. So I
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, you just said something that really caught my attention, Dr. Dwayne, and your why. And so let's kind of talk about that a little bit, the why.
absolutely.
Because as you know, so you're talking about male teachers,
Mhm.
and I don't know what the percentage of male versus female in our urban schools. I don't know what that percentage are, but I know there is a need for that male authority in the classroom to help with, because unfortunately you're more than just an educator in the sense. I mean, you're a father figure, you are a coach, you
Mhm.
are a disciplinary. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So let's talk about that. So what is your why? What is it that drives you to become this educator and this principal and this person that you are?
Absolutely. So at a young age, I absolutely knew that teaching was something that I was, and I like to say, called to do, because it comes in so many modalities and so many different ways in
Hmm.
which you can get platforms available to you to be able to educate. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in what we will call the secular educational system, but it could be Christian, it could be all types of platforms that's afforded to you. And so at an early age, I actually discovered that teaching was something that I absolutely wanted to embody. And
Right.
so I had a lot of great educators that really poured into me, coming from a family, a single parent family. And we were very transient. When I was younger, we experienced homelessness, we
Wow.
experienced all types of hardships coming up. And it was the educational system that really kept me together. I
Yeah.
like to put it,
Right.
because it was the village approach and village mentality
Right.
that a lot of the educators saw in me, and they molded it and they shaped that. And so as I began to get older, I understood that this is purpose driven. This is
Yes.
my why. My why is to absolutely empower students to first discover,
Yeah.
secondly, to develop, and thirdly, to demonstrate the abilities that they have within them that someone just have to come along and really pull that ability out of them. And so I wanted to pay it forward, the same thing that had been done to me, at an early age. And so that is really my why. When I talk about my why is in any shape, form, or fashion to be able to really have young people, and it could be mature adult people, but more so young people is who I really have a love, a passion for, to be able to do those three things: to discover, develop, and demonstrate the ability that they have within them, and really to wake up that sleeping giant, to,
Wow.
to have them to understand and know that any and everything is possible. Of course, with Christ being the
Yeah.
center, the
Right.
core, and the foundation, it is the world that they can conquer, and don't let anybody or anything stop them from being or becoming, I should say.
Wow. That is so incredible, man. I love that. And welcome those that are still coming in. I saw that Miss Victoria come in, and Lynn. Thank you guys so much for joining in and participating tonight. I really greatly appreciate you guys. Someone told me years ago, and I'm getting used to saying this now, Dr. Dwayne, that you become what you needed. And
Absolutely.
that's what I heard from you just now. You became what you needed. So when I need a friend, I have to be friendly. When you become what you need, and that is so rich because you know the value of that now. Yeah,
Absolutely.
having to come through that and having to be a part of that, you know the value of what it takes now, and the struggle. For lack of a
Yes.
better word, to become successful. And we have to stop. I think, and we'll get into that a little bit. I was getting ready to make a statement. I might hold it. No, I'm gonna say it. Sometimes we have to stop making excuses for why we can't, when God will give us the tools. Because I'm thinking about Christ, man, and he wasn't born in the best atmosphere.
Hmm.
He was born in a manger. Come on, I mean, that's where but yet he was still the Christ.
Hmm.
So he had to overcome that to become who he was, and so it is with us. But in our humanity, it does take a push. It does take a lift to get us to where we are going. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit as we talk about the urban community and we talk about our young Black boys. And I'm gonna read a couple of things here for you.
Okay.
And it says most of the issues that we see in our young men are transferred down. Most of the things we see in our children or our young boys are transferred down through culture, and it's traced directly to the brokenness of men and to the brokenness of our homes. So, I mean, do you agree with that? I mean, our social issues, it comes. A lot of it is crime, is poverty, social ills, and so on and so on. But a lot of it is brokenness, broken systems, broken homes.
Absolutely. And let me start out by saying you're absolutely right. And brokenness, when we talk about brokenness among men, we
Mhm.
have to go back to where it all started.
Yes,
And
sir.
there's this thing that vacillates between those philosophical people or those intellects, where we talk about the Jimmy Lynch,
Yeah.
Willie Lynch. I'm sorry,
Right.
Willie Lynch,
Right.
and we talk about that, and we talk about the categorization, and we talk about slavery and all of those things. Well, if you look at that, and the argument is not if the Willie Lynch letter is true or not, and the things that was written in the letter is true or
Hmm.
not. But we're living out that. Here we are 300 years later and living out that, still that belief in that categorization system. And we talk about brokenness among
Right.
men. When we talk about that, let's just take slavery, for example. When we
Sure.
think about
Sure.
the whole concept and the idea behind slavery, where the whole plight or the whole system was set up to break men. To break
Absolutely,
men.
bro.
This is why your lynchings and your beatings and all of these you can't talk about the brokenness among men unless you go back to the beginning where it all
Yes, sir.
started.
Where did it originate? You're absolutely right.
Exactly. And that's why,
Mhm.
so when we talk about the transfer down culture and we talk about the brokenness of men, it started there because men were being broken in front of their families, in
Yes,
front of
sir. Yes,
their
sir.
wives, in front
Yes,
of
sir.
their children.
Yes,
And
sir.
so that whole ideology of that whole point was to see men be beaten down or broken and get them in a broken state to where they would lose position and
Correct.
posture and power, lose
Wow.
position, posture, and power
Love that.
among the family, among the
Hmm.
culture. And
Hmm.
right now, today, when we talk about, the way men are displayed right now today in entertainment, you look at
Right.
entertainment and the men in entertainment, they're not the brightest. They
That's
are
right.
portrayed to be not the brightest, or
Yep.
they have to be put on a dress to
Yep.
entertain, to
Yep.
be funny.
Say that.
All of these things. And I'm not saying that, this is their bread and butter. So I get it. I understand that these are things that, some of our entertainers have to do in order to do that. But when we take a compilation of this and we put it all together and we talk about the culture of men and we talk about the brokenness of men and the transfer down culture of it, well, it all started there. It
Absolutely. So
all
you have to
started
go back
all
to
the
what was
way back.
original. Absolutely.
Yes. And so with this men right now, even to date, when we talk about the culture of the family, if we can even address the welfare system
Sure.
and how it was set up and what was it intended for, it didn't really play out, to be used for that particular
Right.
purpose.
Yes,
The
sir.
men couldn't be in the home with the women. They couldn't live
Right.
in the home with the women if they
Absolutely.
wanted to benefit from the
Absolutely.
benefits of having this supportive system
Yeah.
support them. So all of these various things, the building block of these things is what shifts our culture, is what shifted the men's posture and position among women, among family, and how they were viewed and looked at in the culture. You talked about earlier Christ providing the greatest example.
Mhm.
Well, and then the excuses that come along, even with, men and taking their rightful positions and roles, the excuses there. I learned early on from a professor of mine in college that excuses are useless. If you have a good one, don't even try to use it, because
Wow.
being a man of your word is very important. But
Sure.
you have even men today where you're unable to identify who is the man in the circle
Absolutely.
among the young men, because some of their images and some of the portrayal of them are mimicking and look just like the young people in which they really should be leading. So you
Absolutely.
have all of these disparities that we look at that really compromises the culture of men.
Wow, man, you just said a mouthful there, because you do have to understand where it originates from and why we're in the state that we're in. And
Absolutely.
repeat what you said a moment ago. You said position, posture, and what? You gave me three
Position.
things.
Yeah. So when I was talking about the position of men and the posture of men. And,
Hmm.
and what I mean by that is men taking their rightful roles, their
Sure.
proper roles, and
Yeah.
being properly positioned and postured as who they were built to be. The word gives us, not to turn this, into a spiritual thing or
But
whatever.
it is.
Yeah, but we got believers, and
Yeah.
us as believers, we should be able to freely share the gospel. And when we talk about our roles, the Bible refers to us as warriors,
Yes, sir. Yes,
giver
sir.
men,
Yeah.
giver men of God is what the word calls us,
Absolutely.
the new
Absolutely.
Adams of the earth. And so when we talk about position and posture, we continue to always have that posture and position really compromised within
Yeah.
the family among the men.
Absolutely. And when you said that, you remind me of our previous show. I talked about Gideon, and with all that Gideon was dealing with, he was hungry, he was hurting, he was humiliated, he was afraid, he was hiding in a wine press, they said, threshing wheat. But God saw what he would be. And
Yes,
God, in all of that, God still calls him a mighty man of valor.
absolutely.
And so I've got this book that I'm reading, Dwayne, and it's called Manhood Restored,
Uh-huh.
and it's by Eric Mason. And so again, I'm going to read something, and then I'm going to question you about it, because it talks about, as we're talking about our young men, and making sure that we catch them at this early stage of their life before they get into the system, and before they get just out there, man. We have to catch them now. We can't wait till they get 12 and 13 and 14.
Absolutely.
It's too late. If we don't start at 4, 5, 6, man, we will lose them. I see it every day. I see
Yes.
it in families. You see it in the school system, which was what we'll talk about in a little bit. But it talks about this. So a man, and I'm not going to call his name, but it says a man lost his father at the tender age of 4. All of his life, he struggled with his identity as a man. He admits that being raised in a household mostly of women has been a maturity challenge for him. As he has grown to adulthood, pockets of his memory are lost from between the ages of 3 and 9.
Mm.
And which is a very important time frame of a young man's life. That 3 to 9, as
Mhm.
an educator, as a father, the importance of catching that. So, talk a little bit about what you see in the school system in that age. What are you witnessing as you see these kids coming into you? What are you witnessing from them? What is the lack? What is the deprivation? What's going on in these young men's life?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about what you're referencing from the book, from the young person losing their father, and I like that when you said maturity challenge,
Right, right.
maturity of the maturation being challenged, and that 3 to 9
Yes, sir.
age gap there. I can speak from personal experience. shared with y'all earlier that I am from a single parent home. My
Right.
mom raised me. To date, I absolutely had no type of relationship or information on my father.
Okay.
And so throughout that whole journey, when you talk about that 3 to 9, I can personally identify with that because right now to date, believe it or not, I can speak on that 3 to 9 because believe it or not, especially when you get to the 9-year-old for men, that's how they determine how many prisons that they're building is
Wow.
the illiterate rate of a third grade male coming out of third grade not being able to read or not being able to
Wow.
comprehend.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so so those are critical ages, the age 3 to 9, because when you think of them, those are really impressionable ages. And so what we're seeing in the system now is the absence of two-parent homes and
Sure.
fathers
Sure.
really stepping up. I talked about it earlier. I'll talk about that position and that posture
Right.
again, and how really critical that is to that young person from age 3 to 9 in that discovery of that trajectory of that path that they're
Right.
going on. That is a really pivotal moment in a young man's life to where they are really discovering who they are, and not to mention that they are patterning and they're shaping their
Sure.
lives
Yeah.
after what they are seeing. I say
Right.
often that you learn information or you learn things only two types of ways. It's either caught or it's taught.
Yeah.
Those are the only two ways that you learn
Absolutely.
it. And the,
Absolutely.
and the danger in that, Pastor Sims, is you really don't know what's being caught
Yeah.
until you see it exhibited by the young male
That's it.
child.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
so in the educational system, we are seeing a lot of young men that are coming to the system, and you could tell it's so vitally critical that they are missing that male role model. I oftentimes get in, I wouldn't like to call them debates, but
Hmm.
just discussions with,
Hmm.
and sometimes intense discussion
Hmm.
with parents about my ideology around, and we could argue this fact all day long. But what I see a lot of is you have a lot of grandparents,
Right.
grandmothers, I
Right.
might add, a lot of
Yeah.
moms that
Right.
are raising young male children.
Absolutely.
The,
Absolutely.
the danger in that is you cannot teach that young person 3 to 9 years old and thereafter how to be a man.
That's true.
Cannot teach them how to be. And so we often, that's a, and believe you me, I'm for the female power, the woman
Sure.
power.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
support them. I hold our queens up. I love
Right.
them. I have a queen
Right.
myself. I
Right.
have daughters myself. But when it comes to teaching a young male child how to be a man, that is to be done by a man. And
Absolutely.
absence of that is critical now and evident among our young children who are coming into the educational system,
Right.
because there's a lot of disrespect that is being exhibited among our teachers. There's a lot of dismissive types of behaviors that are taking place. And then when we even talk about the respect,
Yeah.
of the young female counterparts, or the peers in the school and different things like that. There's the absence of that as well. And
Absolutely.
so it's really evident that you see the absence of that role really being vital and critically portrayed within our families and whatnot. So yeah, the loss of the father at that age is very critical, and we are seeing definitely a great impact of it within our school system.
Wow. And again, thank you for all that information, because what I see, even in the church, I see grandmothers that
Hmm.
are raising children. The parents are not coming. The parents have given them to the grandma, the mama, the grandmama to raise. They don't want to have the
Yeah,
time. They don't want to have the patience. And then it transfers sometimes into the school system, because in the school system, you have educators, unfortunately, that don't want to be bothered trying to raise, because they
absolutely.
look at it, I'm not here to raise your child. I'm here to teach. So, and I get it. It's both ways, but I'm grateful for people and men such as yourself that take on that responsibility and the task of understanding the purpose why God planted you where you're planted at. And
Mhm.
that's what I see when you were talking earlier, the why. You
Absolutely.
understand why you were planted there, the purpose of why you are there, and it's not
Absolutely.
just to be an education. It's so much more than that. And until we can get that back into the school system, of course, I mean, I was raised up, man, where teachers they disciplined you, of course, and they had so many other ideals. Let me read this. Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Hans, for that comment. You're absolutely right. But coming up with us, I mean, they were that. They knew us. They knew our parents. They were given the permission to discipline. Even if we take that away, they had the right to share in our lives. And so we had that village. I think now we're missing the village as well too in our school system, because again, education and teachers are in a different zone now. First of
Mhm.
all, you don't get paid well enough to do what you do. That's a problem and so you're constantly shifting. I see in the school system that I've been around in the last 10 years, I've seen turnovers because teachers are having to go to different states to try to make more money. So now you're leaving that vacant, you're leaving positions vacant. There's a lack
Mhm.
of teachers. You don't have enough in the classrooms now. Classrooms are overcrowded. I'm sure you deal with that as well too. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I have another statement that it was talking about too. It talks about another dad at another home, Dwayne, that the father was there. The father was in the home. He was physically there, but he checked out. So here's
Mhm.
another example of a father that was there, but though he was present in the home, he was a passive influencer over his children. He was
Yes.
not there. He felt like if I give them everything, they don't need me. The things will replace me. And so,
Absolutely.
is it possible that in our society now, that's why we're getting so many distraught young men that are doing what I call foolish things uh,
Mhm.
because they don't have identity. They don't have anyone that has showed love to them, and so they're just raised up empty. They
Yeah.
are void, and they are raised up void. So, do you see that in
Yes.
your system as well too?
Yeah, and there's a compilation of all of that actually. So the level of trauma has tremendously increased. So when we throw COVID in there
Oh
and
yeah,
we throw all of the other, and that's just one aspect of it.
yeah.
But then we
That's a
throw
great point.
what you just stated. We got the father represented in the home and is disattached from
Right.
the family and provide no type of love and support other than finances and what they can do for the family or do for the child. So you have that one aspect, and then you have the absence of that as well. So when we think about levels of trauma,
Yeah.
it has tremendously increased, and you do see a great representation of that. And I think it was Dr. Hines that said, you got your educators who are having to deal with um, educating the students and making certain that they are meeting expectations as it relates to the mastery of
Sure.
standards and
Right.
from state to state. State to state, the teacher's job is to educate those students at high levels and make sure that he or she understands those standards that are being taught at the grade level. But then when you take that and you add in the trauma
Yeah.
that teachers experience every day from the
Sure.
two types of fathers
Yeah.
that you were
Yeah.
talking about
Right.
earlier, and coming from those different families where you had the provider
Right.
and they were disattached, or you
Yeah.
had the student that didn't have the father and they were disattached. So it's ever increasing the trauma that the
Mhm.
teacher, and so yes, it does bring burnout. It brings all types of situations that teachers deal with on a day-to-day, compilated with, like you were stating, Pastor Sims, about the pay and
Yeah.
the different things like that, or what I just believe that, being an educator myself, that teachers just in general do not get the recognition, do
Sure.
not get the esteem,
Right.
the credit, the platform that he or she really needs to accolade the job that they do each and every day within those school buildings and within them classrooms with students. And so you're seeing this, you're definitely seeing this among the young people when they show up to your schools every day, ill prepared to learn, or bringing just a bunch of issues that you have to work through first before you can even reach the child. I have this thing that I say that rebuke without the relationship only breeds rebellion.
Absolutely.
Where the children are concerned. And so you got to get to the child first relationally before you can even deal with anything else, because you got that child that comes to school with all of these various things. I remember seeing a video that was so impactful that makes me think about what you were stating. And I can't remember who the particular maker was of this video, but the video in short was this child that was traveling each day by himself. And he went to this this doctor's office, this private practice of a doctor's office. And he's walking around by himself. And then he goes into this practice and he asks, and a young lady comes up and approaches him. And she says to him, "How can I help you?" She's trying to start a conversation with her, but he doesn't respond to her. Then the doctor comes up to him and he raises his shirt and he said, "Can you make it stop? Wow. Can you take this off of me? Can you take this off of me?" And it was a target.
Wow.
On a young Black male's stomach, there was a target.
Jesus.
The doctor says to him, "I'm sorry, but I don't have a cure for that."
Ooh, my.
So when you talk about trauma, when you talk about things that we are dealing with every day as a young Black male growing up in society, adult male growing up in society, educated, any professional role of any kind, that's impactful. And I just remember the impact that video. I do apologize for not having the name of it, but it is absolutely the most powerful video that you can show that really sums up the conversation that we're having about this particular subject matter right now.
And man, what a powerful issue here. I mean, a target. I mean, and that's what our Black boys come to school with. That's what they go into society with. Automatically is a target on them. That
Absolutely.
And again, these layers that we have to unpack before we can get to even educating. And so my hat goes off to you guys, because like I said, you're peeling back so much before you can even get into the education. And I know that's what you do. I know that's who you are. I've heard you talk about it. I've seen your work. And again, I'm sure I have some people on here watching that maybe have young teenage boys, or they have grand boys, and they're wondering sometimes now, how do I deal with these personalities? How do I deal with these issues? Because you might, whoever's watching me now, you might have a 15-year-old, or 16 or 17 that are still dealing with some layers of just being Black male, because now we're as we're seeing on TV the separation of who we are. I mean, that we're not equal. We should be, but that we're not. So now they're dealing with that. You add on that with layers of not knowing who your father is, and not knowing why your father doesn't love you, and not knowing why your father won't come get you, and man, that is a lot of trauma for a young person to deal with. So as we prepare to wrap up this evening, I already told you guys at the beginning, this is going to be a 2 show, maybe 3. We've got to come back and do this. So what starts the solution? What starts the process of mending, of repairing?
Absolutely.
Take a few minutes and talk about what do we do to start the process of repairing.
And that's a great question. And that's also a question that I get a lot from, especially from my parents who don't have, there is the absence of that male Black role model that's in that family. And the anecdote, and it's not a one, type solution to it.
Right. No,
but
one and
done.
No.
The things that I provide for them is a platform.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get them connected to their kind.
Yeah.
Mentor groups, football, baseball, football, sports, all kinds of sports. Get them among their kind. Get them connected to someone who could speak life, pastors,
Yes.
some type of role model program. But it's extremely important to get them. Iron sharpens iron, the
Yes,
Bible
sir.
says. And so you got to get young people, young men in particularly, connected to their kind. Get
Yeah.
them immersed, surrounded by someone that's going to speak life into them.
Yes.
And this person may not be their biological father.
True.
It could be an uncle, a cousin, a mentor group, a fraternity organization, a pastor, or whomever it is.
Right.
But what you're going to have, what's going to happen when you do that is life is going to exude from that young person. I can't even tell you how many young men that I have connected to. It's so many of them to even name. I told you I've 27 years in this, and throughout the years I have been able and fortunate to meet so many powerful young men who were just lost, who were just lost, had no direction, had no one speaking life into them of the sort, none of it. And it wasn't until we connected, we built relationship, I mentored them, got even some families connected to support groups and organizations that will speak that life. And that's what's going to really be important, to get them connected with urgency to someone that they can relate to, someone who can build, someone who can restore, someone who can empower, someone who can bring the lion and the king out of that young man. And they are out here. They are out here. It's just important to find it and seek it and get them with urgency connected.
Oh my goodness. Dr. Dwayne, man, so powerful, man. And this, it's there, it's in them. It is just left up to us to draw it out and to let them know that it's there. Mentorship is so important, man.
Yes, it is.
And like kind is so important as well too. I tell all young mothers, make sure and put that boy in sports. Sports saved my life. It literally saved my life. It got me off the streets. I became really good at it at an early age. So my mom knew. She's like, I got a grip now. So, you know, because at that point I'm like, you can take anything away from me, just don't take that basketball, okay? But then she put, okay, but then this is the grade I expect. This is the discipline I expect. This is the, you know, all of this. But and then even my coach was a mentor. My coach, but you know, because as good as I was, if I didn't have the right attitude or personality around him, he would sit me down. It didn't matter how good I was. But that taught me, it taught me how to discipline myself. I'm disciplined now because of something that happened when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old that came back upon my life. So important that we do that. Man, listen, thank you so much for I know you've had a busy day trying to prepare for school and all the things that goes on with you. I will have you back. Trust me, those that are listening, Dr. Dwayne West will be back on this show. We've got to complete this. I've got hundreds of more questions. Listen, guys, if you have questions, please reach out to me on my social media. You can find me on Facebook, or you can go and send me an email at mssims14@gmail.com. Send some questions to us. Let us know what you got out of the show tonight. Some other questions that we can ask Dr. Dwayne. We don't ever want to come into such a company of such greatness and not pull on him. And he is full of wealth. He is full of knowledge. So we will do a part 2, possibly a part 3 with this, because this is so important. Again, I'm tired of seeing our young men getting to the system. You said something earlier that the system is looking at them at 9 years old, determining how many more prisons to build. Say no more. I mean, that tells us that the work that we need to do, and it's in our community. It is our responsibility to make sure that our young men, because I have them in my family, you have them in our family. Those of you that are watching, you've got those in your family, or you see them in your neighborhood. You know who we are talking about. But these are somebody's son. This is somebody's grandson. This is somebody's brother, so on and so on. It is our responsibility to give them the right tools so that they can make it in this world that we live in called life. So thank you again, Dr. Dwayne. Thank you to all of you that have watched our show today. Listen, I'm so happy to have you guys on and with us, that you took out your time. Thank you, Miss Valerie, Pastor Valerie, for being on. Thank you, Tasha, for being on. Thank you, Elder Hines, all of you, Victoria, Lynn, everyone that has come on tonight. This is what we do. Under
Yes.
construction. This is what under construction is really about, because we are all striving to make changes and to make kings and priests out of these great young men in our life. So once again, sir, thank you. I will be in touch with you real soon.
Thank you.
To my audience, again, thank you so much for joining in tonight. You know I love you. Listen, I said something to our leaders this past Saturday, and I'll say it on my way out. Purpose and progress equals success. So progress and purpose will equal success. And that's what we're trying to build in our young men, so that they can go out and captivate and be who God has made them to be. So until next time, I love you guys. I appreciate you. We are out of here until next show.